Hello everybody, I'm Jim Morris. I'm a founding partner of an industry analyst firm called Transformer Insights, and I'm sitting here on the IoT M2M Council booth at CES 2025 on the show floor. I have the great pleasure of being joined by Marc, who is the Director of Business Development of Somos.
Yes, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Thank you, Marc. So there's an increase in regulations around IoT security around the world. What is it that's driving this?
Well, there have been a large number of regulatory pushes around the world, and that is largely because of the fact that IoT security has been grossly neglected in the past decade. As the devices have evolved, as they have become more interwoven into enterprise operations, people really haven't taken the time to secure them. In fact, there's a joke that the S in IoT stands for security. So companies that operate these devices really need to take steps to secure them in the same way that they have secured the traditional IT devices. If you think about the computers, about the servers, about the phones in an enterprise operation, they are all well inventoried. The software and hardware inside them is well documented so that vulnerabilities and exploits and attacks can be quickly isolated and mitigated. The issue that you have for IoT devices is that they are essentially anonymous black boxes. They are not documented internally. People do not have a sense for the hardware or the software running inside them, and that leaves millions of points of vulnerability.
Yes, I tend to agree about your comments of the S in IoT being for security. There's always a lot of talk about security and about how security is very important, but there seems there's very little joined up thinking behind that.
Yeah, it is. I think the issue that you find is twofold. First of all, the OT and IT departments in enterprises are traditionally separate. The IT department is much more mature in its thinking. The OT department traditionally has managed what were called dumb devices. You had isolated sensors in air-gapped networks that really weren't talking to anything or have a lot of potential to be attacked or do damage. What you face today is a situation in which companies are breaking down all of those traditional barriers between IT and OT in order to enable AI optimization of the enterprise. And that is creating routes of communication and routes of infection and points of vulnerability for those devices. And as they enable these devices more broadly across the enterprises, they have to make sure that they harden them.
Absolutely, and I guess this advent of regulation must be driving some kind of change. Both in the vendor community and also in the end user community. So, what are the change that you see flowing from this dawn of new regulations?
So the community is evolving. Each of the segments of the community is beginning to take action. If you look at the software developers, and particularly some of the software development platform tools, they are maturing and they are becoming more integrated and systematic about documenting software bill of materials as the coders are developing firmware and software, so that is available as an artifact to support subsequent security measures. You also have device manufacturers that are taking more steps to gather that software bill of materials and make it available to their customers in integrated support portals and download services so that customers can support each manufacturer's devices. The enterprises, I'm not quite clear how quickly they have caught on with this. You've got a little bit of a budgeting lag. But what strikes me is you look at the industry, we have the atomic elements of security coming together. But if you think about the fact that you now have manufacturers with individually siloed portals, it's going to be difficult for enterprises to integrate all of the information across the diversity of devices that they operate on a day-to-day basis. So I think there's still a gap there to have sort of a clearinghouse to integrate and give enterprises and municipalities and utilities a single pane of glass to understand all their device risk in one place.
Okay, I tend to agree, and also knowing a little about Somos, I happen to know that you have a product in that space, or some offering in that space. Perhaps you might like to tell folks what that is and how that can support both vendors and end users on their journey.
Yeah, so Somos ID is a registry that we have developed which takes IoT devices and provides an integrated, transparent view of not only all of their device and network identities so that people working with them from different directions can identify them, but we also provide the details of the hardware and software bill of materials together with a continuous scan of the vulnerabilities associated with the software bill of materials so that customers have a continuous view of all of the threats and the general security of their security posture of their devices at all times. This also provides a ready data source to aid with compliance reporting, because as we started this dialogue, regulators are increasingly requiring documentation of full SBOM disclosure for entire populations of devices. So it can be used to appease regulators and also increasingly SEC regulators and the financial community, because increasingly security and financial officers are liable for any kind of negligence that leads to cyber attacks that cause damage.
Yeah, so there's a very complex and fast evolving landscape, but it sounds like you have a component there which is helping pulling together some of those disparate elements.
Yes.
And helping people just step forward and absorb the impact of these regulations.
Yes, again, as I said before, the elements are coming together. You have a very siloed and fragmented approach. The industry has always been relatively fragmented, and as it unifies, Somos has offered a database to help to unify it for customers and also the industry at large. It's the registry is meant to be shared across all service providers and even regulators, because we realize that the entire industry needs to work together to secure the ecosystem.
That's fantastic. Marc, it's been extremely interesting to chat to you, and great to hear about some of this emerging complexity and also some of the offerings that you have to help tackle that complexity. Thank you very much for joining me.
Okay, thank you, Jim.